If this story put a smile on your face, and honestly, how could it not? Smash that like button and drop a comment below. I want to know, what's the most satisfying, poetic piece of justice you've ever witnessed or delivered? The comment section is yours. Subscribe if you're new here, because we do this every week. Real stories, real people, real justice. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. If this story put a smile on your face, and honestly, how could it not? Smash that like button and drop a comment below. I want to know, what's the most satisfying, poetic piece of justice you've ever witnessed or delivered? The comment section is yours. Subscribe if you're new here, because we do this every week. Real stories, real people, real justice. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. You're 21 years old. You're sitting across from your boyfriend, a lawyer, someone you respect, someone you trust, and you're telling him about your dream. Not just some vague wish, a real, thought-out plan. And he looks you dead in the eye and scoffs. Not a laugh, not a gentle redirect, a scoff. Like you just told him you wanted to be a unicorn trainer. And in that moment, something inside you cracks, just a little, because you're young, and he's older, and you made the mistake of thinking that meant he was wiser. 3 years later, she got into UC Berkeley School of Law, ranked 90 spots above his alma mater, and today, she's about to make sure he sees it. If you've ever had someone look at your ambitions and treat them like a joke, if you've ever been talked down to by someone who was supposed to lift you up, then this story was made for you. Hit that like button, smash subscribe, and settle in. Because this right here, this is what 3 years of quiet, burning determination looks like when it finally pays off. This is one of the most satisfying revenge stories I've ever had the privilege of telling. Emma didn't do any of this for Daniel. She didn't wake up every morning fueled by hatred or obsession or the need for his acknowledgement. She just kept going. She built something real and true and hers. And the revenge? That was just the natural consequence of excellence. There's something profound in that. The best response to someone who underestimates you isn't anger. It's evidence. A while back, Emma noticed something on LinkedIn. Someone had been creeping her profile, quietly, repeatedly. Daniel. She blocked him immediately, because why wouldn't she? She didn't need him watching her trajectory, and frankly, he didn't deserve a front row seat. But yesterday, the day the Berkeley acceptance came in, Emma made a decision. She unblocked him. Not to reach out, not to send a message, not to rub his face in it with a paragraph he doesn't deserve. Just to allow him the visibility, to let him scroll LinkedIn like he apparently likes to do, to see her name, and to watch the update roll across his screen. Emma, incoming JD student, UC Berkeley School of Law. No confrontation, no dramatic speech, just information, sitting there, quiet and devastating. Because here's what Emma understood that Daniel apparently never did. The best revenge isn't loud. It's legible. It's the kind that doesn't require a single word of explanation, because the facts speak with more precision than any argument ever could. She got into a law school ranked 90 spots above his. Not 5, not 10, 90. And somewhere, in a LinkedIn notification that he will absolutely open, because we all know that man is going to check, Daniel will do the math. He'll remember what he said, and he'll have to live with the knowledge that the woman he told to be a court clerk is about to become one of the most rigorously trained attorneys in the country. Emma described it herself as a legally blonde moment, and honestly, Elle Woods would applaud her. Remember those hours we spent in the hot tub? Well, this is so much better. It's 2022. Fresh out of college, 21 years old, and she's standing at the edge of her entire future. That terrifying, electric moment where everything is still possible and nothing is certain yet. Her name is Emma, and Emma had a plan. Not a fantasy, not a pipe dream scribbled in the margins of a notebook. A real plan. She'd work as a paralegal at a law firm, learn the ecosystem from the inside, understand how attorneys think, how cases move, how courtrooms breathe. And when the time was right, she'd apply to law school. She'd earn her seat at the table. It was methodical, it was patient, it was smart. And she had every reason to feel confident sharing it, because at the time, she was dating someone who lived inside that world. His name was Daniel, 27 years old, an attorney, sharp-tongued and polished, the kind of man who could walk into a room and immediately recalibrate its energy. He spoke about the law with this quiet authority that Emma found magnetic. When he talked about depositions, about motions, about courtroom strategy, she listened. She trusted him. That trust, as it turns out, was the first mistake. It was a perfectly ordinary evening when she brought it up. They were relaxed, comfortable with each other, the way you only get after a few months of being with someone. Emma took a breath and laid it all out. The paralegal path, the law school goal, the timeline she'd been quietly building in her head. She was excited. She waited for him to match that energy. Instead, the scoff. This short, dismissive exhale through his nose. And then, with the casual cruelty of someone who doesn't even realize they're being cruel, he said it. "You'd be better off as a court clerk." Silence. Emma felt it move through her like cold water. That specific, nauseating feeling of having your excitement snatched midair and handed back to you in pieces. A court clerk. He didn't say why. He didn't offer a single piece of reasoning. He just decided. Decided what her ceiling was. Decided what she was worth. Decided, in the span of 4 words, that her ambition was something to be corrected rather than encouraged. And because Emma was 21, because she hadn't yet learned that the right response to disrespect is not to shrink, she let it go. She brushed it off, forced a small laugh, changed the subject. But here's the thing about moments like that. They don't disappear. They settle. They sit somewhere in the back of your chest, and they wait. A few weeks later, Emma started her first paralegal job. The breakup came shortly after. And if you're wondering why, well, the scoff wasn't a one-time thing. It was a symptom. The kind of man who tells a 21-year-old woman to lower her sights is also the kind of man who does 100 other small, invisible things to make you feel like you're just a little too much, a little too eager, a little too ambitious for his comfort. She left. And to Daniel, she was probably just a chapter that closed quietly. But Emma? Emma had started reading. Now, here's where most people expect the story to pivot immediately into triumph. A montage of late nights, highlighters, coffee cups, and breakthrough moments. The truth is messier than that. The years between 2022 and now weren't a straight line. They were a slog. Paralegal work is hard, not glamorous, not flashy. Long hours parsing documents, building cases brick by brick for attorneys who sometimes don't even learn your last name. There were days Emma went home exhausted, wondering if she was just collecting experience points in someone else's story. And Daniel's voice, that scoff, those 4 words, had a habit of showing up in the quiet moments. "You'd be better off as a court clerk." Not because she believed him, but because doubt doesn't need to be believable. It just needs to be there, a persistent whisper in the margins of every hard day. She chose to answer it differently each time, not with rage, with work. She sat with LSAT prep materials the way some people sit with scripture, not obsessively, but faithfully. Night after night, building the logical reasoning muscle, the reading comprehension stamina, the analytical thinking that the test was designed to measure. She treated it like training. Slow, quiet, and relentless. Last fall, she sat for the LSAT. She scored in the 98th percentile. Let me say that again, because it deserves the space. The 98th percentile. Out of every 100 people who took that exam, 98 of them scored lower than Emma. The woman Daniel had pointed toward administrative work. The woman he dismissed with a single exhale. She submitted her applications, and then she waited, which, if you've ever been through an admissions process, you know is its own particular form of torture. Then yesterday happened. Emma opened her email. And there it was. UC Berkeley School of Law, one of the most prestigious law programs in the country, a letter of admission. She stared at it for a long moment, the kind of moment that doesn't feel real at first, where your brain needs a few extra seconds to catch up with your eyes. And then, somewhere deep in her chest, that thing that had been settling since 2022 finally released. Not with screaming, not with tears necessarily, just this wave of quiet, absolute certainty. She had done it. She had done it. But the story has one more beat. A while back, Emma noticed something on LinkedIn. Someone had been creeping her profile, quietly, repeatedly. Daniel? She blocked him immediately, because why wouldn't she? She didn't need him watching her trajectory, and frankly, he didn't deserve a front row seat. But yesterday, the day the Berkeley acceptance came in, Emma made a decision. She unblocked him. Not to reach out, not to send a message, not to rub his face in it with a paragraph he doesn't deserve, just to allow him the visibility, to let him scroll LinkedIn like he apparently likes to do, to see her name, and to watch the update roll across his screen. Emma, incoming JD student, UC Berkeley School of Law. No confrontation, no dramatic speech, just information, sitting there, quiet and devastating. Because here's what Emma understood that Daniel apparently never did. The best revenge isn't loud, it's legible. It's the kind that doesn't require a single word of explanation because the facts speak with more precision than any argument ever could. She got into a law school ranked 90 spots above his. Not 5, not 10, 90. And somewhere, in a LinkedIn notification that he will absolutely open, because we all know that man is going to check, Daniel will do the math. He'll remember what he said. And he'll have to live with the knowledge that the woman he told to be a court clerk is about to become one of the most rigorously trained attorneys in the country. Emma described it herself as a legally blonde moment, and honestly, Elle Woods would applaud her. Remember those hours we spent in the hot tub? Well, this is so much better. Our storyteller, let's call her Maya, was, by all accounts, a reasonable woman. Practical. Patient, the kind of person who communicates clearly, asks nicely, and genuinely believes that if you explain a problem to someone who loves you, they'll want to fix it. She was, as she'd eventually discover, a little too optimistic about that. When Maya and her husband, let's call him Derek, first got married, they were navigating one of those classic early relationship challenges, wildly incompatible schedules. Derek worked a demanding 12-hour shift job, 4 days on, 3 days off. The kind of schedule that sounds brutal on paper and is brutal in practice. And to make it even more disruptive, his shifts started early. Not just early bird gets the worm early. We're talking 3:30 in the morning early. Picture that for a second. While most of the world is in the deepest valley of sleep, Derek was already lacing up his boots, packing his lunch, and heading out into the cold dark like some kind of industrial-era ghost. Maya, on the other hand, had a normal office job. 9 to 5, alarm at 7. The kind of schedule built around human biology and the understanding that people need sleep to function. And here's where the story begins. Because Derek, bless his heart, had a ritual. Every single morning, every work morning, before he walked out that door at 3:30 a.m., Derek would come to the bedroom. He'd lean over the bed, and he'd gently, lovingly even, wake Maya up. "Hey, honey, I'm heading out. Love you." and then he'd leave. Now look, on the surface, that sounds sweet. Romantic even. A devoted husband who wants to say goodbye before a long shift. Who wants his wife to know he's thinking of her? But here's what Derek apparently never considered. Waking someone up at 3:30 in the morning is not a small thing. Maya wasn't a light sleeper who'd drift right back under after a quick murmur. No. When she got woken up, especially abruptly, especially in total darkness, especially by someone appearing at her bedside like a sleep-deprived apparition, her brain kicked into full alert mode. Heart rate up, thoughts racing. That disorienting, almost panicky confusion of what time is it, what's happening, is everything okay? And by the time she registered that everything was fine, that it was just Derek, just his usual departure, her nervous system had already decided it was showtime. Sleep? Gone. Fled the building, not coming back. So Maya would lie there in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, watching the minutes tick by on the clock, knowing her alarm would go off in 3.5 hours, and she'd have to drag herself through an entire workday running on fumes. She did what any reasonable person would do. She asked him to stop. Kindly. Simply. Hey, you don't need to wake me up when you leave. I know you love me. Just go. Let me sleep. Derek nodded. Derek said okay. Derek understood. And then the next work morning at 3:30 a.m., Derek appeared at the bedside. Hey, honey, I'm heading out. Love you. Maya blinked at the ceiling after he left and thought, okay, maybe he forgot. That's fine. She'd remind him. She reminded him. He nodded again. Said of course, absolutely. He'd let her sleep. 3:30 a.m. Hey, honey, I'm heading out. Love you. She asked again. She explained it more carefully this time. That she couldn't fall back asleep, that she was exhausted at work, that she needed those hours. She wasn't asking him to love her less. She was just asking him to love her quietly. Derek said he understood. He said it was just a habit. He said he'd work on it. 3:30 a.m. Hey, honey, I'm heading out. Love you. And this is the moment I want you to really feel. Because it's not just about sleep anymore, is it? It's about being heard. There's something uniquely maddening about telling someone who loves you, someone who shares your life, that something they're doing hurts you, and watching them nod and agree and then do it anyway, over and over again. It sends a message. Maybe not an intentional one, but a message nonetheless. Your comfort is less important than my habit. Your request is less important than my routine. Maya lay there one morning, 3:47 a.m., brain fully awake, tomorrow's meeting already scrolling through her head, and she made a decision. Fine. If Derek couldn't give her the gift of undisturbed sleep, then she would give him the gift of understanding exactly what that felt like. She didn't yell. She didn't issue ultimatums. She didn't sit him down for another conversation that would end in another nod and another broken promise. No. Maya came up with something far more elegant. Derek's schedule was 4 days on, 3 days off. And on those days off, Derek slept. Derek cherished his days off. Those were his recovery days, his recharge days, the days he could finally exhale after back-to-back 12-hour shifts. He'd sink into that mattress on his first morning off like a man who'd earned every thread count. Maya started setting an alarm. Not for herself. She was already up, already getting ready for work. No, this alarm had a different purpose. The first day it happened, Derek was deep in that sacred post-shift sleep. The bedroom was quiet, dark, perfect sleeping conditions. Maya, fully dressed, lunch bag in hand, leaned over the bed. Bye, honey, I'm off to work. Derek's eyes flew open, confused, disoriented, scanning the room like a startled cat. What? What time is it? Oh, don't worry about it. Love you. Have a great day. And she left. Now, you might think that was the whole plan. One dose of karma, message delivered, lesson learned. But Maya had 3 days off to work with. The second morning, she didn't just announce her departure. She lingered. Does my hair look good today? I tried something new with it. I can't decide if I like it. Derek, who had been chasing the last threads of a dream 30 seconds ago, propped himself up on one elbow, squinting at her in the dim light. It looks fine. Maya, You don't think the curls are too much? Okay, you know what? I'll just straighten it tomorrow. Love you. Bye. She could hear him groaning into his pillow as she walked down the hallway. She smiled all the way to her car. The third morning, she outdid herself. She went in with full energy, bright voice, enthusiastic departure energy. Good morning. Just wanted to let you know I'm leaving. The coffee is ready if you want some. I left a note on the fridge about dinner. Oh, and I think the neighbor's dog might be barking later, so just a heads up. There was a long, pained silence from the pillow. Then, in a voice that sounded like it had aged 10 years overnight, Maya. Yes, sweetheart? Please. And that's when she knew. He got it. Not because she'd explained it again, not because she'd escalated into an argument or made it a whole thing, but because she had handed him the experience, unfiltered, firsthand, and let him sit with it. The next work week came around. 3:30 a.m. arrived. Maya lay in bed, eyes closed, waiting. The bedroom door stayed shut. No bedside apparition, no gentle hand on her shoulder, no loving, unwanted whisper in the dark. Just silence. Glorious, beautiful, uninterrupted silence. And when it went off, at an entirely reasonable hour, like a civilized human being deserved, she lay there for a moment, just savoring it. The full night, the complete rest, the knowledge that she had solved this problem not with another conversation, not with another round of explaining herself to someone who'd already heard her, but with pure, symmetrical justice. There's something almost poetic about that, isn't there? No anger, no resentment, no scorched earth confrontation. Just a mirror. She simply held up a mirror and let him see himself in it. And the reflection was apparently enough to change his behavior for good, because from that point on, Derek left for his shift silently, peacefully, like a considerate partner who finally understood. Maya slept, Maya thrived, and Derek, presumably, cherished his days off with a new and profound appreciation, and perhaps a slightly nervous eye toward the bedroom door. You know, sometimes the most powerful thing you can say to someone isn't a single word. Sometimes it's just, here, feel this, now you know. Words can be ignored, habits can be excused, but experience has a way of landing differently, of sticking. Maya didn't break her marriage. She didn't even break a sweat. She just made sure her husband finally understood what she'd been trying to tell him all along. And sometimes, that's all justice really needs to be. If this story made you smile, or if it reminded you of someone in your life who needed exactly this kind of mirror held up to them, smash that like button and drop a comment below. Tell me, what's the most satisfying, perfectly proportionate revenge you've ever pulled off or witnessed? I want to hear everything. And if you're new here and you want more stories like this, the kind where the right person gets exactly what they deserve, hit subscribe. New stories drop regularly, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Until then, sleep well.